welcome back to my channel and welcome to November. I'm doing the wrap up for October with a little jack-o'-lantern to help me behind there, and I'm just gonna have a quick romp through the books I finished this month and the enlarged it on my chin, sorry about that. Sorry. Anyway, number one, Damsel. I love this book. It's about patriarchy. It's about what happens when you wake up and you've been rescued by a rather misogynistic, unpleasant prince and you don't have any memories. Oh my goodness, the prince in this is a piece of work. But he absolutely believes that everyone agrees with him. It's about the sort of man who doesn't really think his actions have consequences, and if he does, then he's sure everyone enjoys it, really, and the sort of woman who ends up caught up in that. And it has a bite at the end and it's very pretty, it's very satisfying, it's a very quick read. I loved it. It's Damsel by Elena K. Arnold. The next book I finished was Fair Play by Tove Jansson, which is completely different. It's about Tove herself, Jansson herself, and her partner, but it's a novelised version of their long-term relationship. So it's about two women who live in a house together, but they kind of live parallel lives, but they have this relationship, this romantic relationship, which is just a happy relationship. They love each other, they respect each other, they work together, they play together, they travel together, they live together, but they give each other the space that they need to grow as people, and it's beautiful, it's lovely. It's not saccharine. There's jealousy, there's things going wrong, but it's realistically happy, and it was a lovely book. And I've never read any Tove Jansson before, so she wrote an illustration of Moomins as well, which again was an idea for a happy story for dark times. And there's some Moomins coming up actually, because I really love the writing style. The next book is Airy Char and the End of Time by Roshani Chokshi. This is based on Hindu mythology, and I really did not know as much about it. Well, I didn't know anything about it before I started, but it's really accessible. It's this hero, Airy Char, is just an ordinary girl who ends up having to do something in her Spider-Man pyjamas and ends up having to save the world in her Spider-Man pyjamas. It is chock full of pop culture references. This is a girl who loves her sci-fi, who loves her superheroes, and she lives in a world of her own imagination, but when called upon, when push comes to shove, she realises she is a hero and she can do it, and I absolutely love it. And so did my daughter, who is nearly 10, and she's been passing it round amongst all our adult friends and we really love it. The next was Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. Complete change of pace. It's about fascism, it's about book banning, it's about what happens when you dissociate society, so people no longer have empathy. It's about books as a mechanism for empathy, for teaching empathy, and it's beautiful. I don't know why I hadn't read it before. It's a really lovely book. I mean, it's horrifying as well, but it's a great book, and if any of that sounds interesting to you, I would definitely pick it up. And also, if you go to outofprint.com, they have Fahrenheit 451 matchboxes, which I just think is the best book tie-in ever. Speaking of Tove Jansson's, we got the Moomins and the Great Flood, which is the first Moomin book, and this book, Moomin Nama, and the little one whose name is Moomin, go out to find Moomin Papa, who's got lost, and they have lots of adventures on the way and make lots of friends, and eventually they do find Moomin Papa, who is lost and did need them to come and rescue him. So it's got these beautiful pictures, and again it's about empathy and friendship and going out and finding and saving people. It's just really lovely, really well written. It's a really great translation by David McDuff. It's a really great translation, and it's a really lovely story, and it's a children's fairy tale that's not saccharine, not scary, just sweet. The Oldest Foods on Earth by John Newton. This is a book a little bit about food. I mean, it's got recipes in. It's a little odd about racism. It's about using food as a mechanism to build bridges between people. It's about accepting that the indigenous people knew what they were talking about and that the food is really good. And it's about saying thank you. There's a quote here which says, "Having said sorry, we've refused to say thanks." It's a quote from Bruce Pascoe. It's about how it's not only necessary to say, "I'm really sorry, I fucked up," but it's also necessary to listen to what people have to say. To say thank you for imparting their wisdom. And so it's got lots of recipes of indigenous Australian food, but it's also got a lot of talk about how food has been used to perpetuate racism in Australia. And not only, it describes a point where the settlers were stealing indigenous land, not letting them farm, not letting them hunt, and then giving them Western food, but not quite enough to live on. So basically genocide through food. It's really, really harsh, but it's the reality. And if you never look and realise that that really happened and not very long ago, you can never move past it. And it's the sort of thing that needs confronting. So it's a hard book to read, but it's a great book. I've really loved it. And he's looking to the future, to the next generation, with great hope. And I think that's a good thing. And there are some great recipes in it. So there's a lovely pavlova here with macadamia nuts, which are Australian. They're not from Hawaii originally, they're from Australia originally. And some lot of stuff about what plants are there, as well as about the human implications. So if you're interested in food in racism in Australia at all, this is a great book to start with. Something completely different. Conjuring of Light by V. Schwab. For some reason this took me a long time to get through, and I don't know why. Well, not that long, obviously I've read 10 books in a month, but you know what I mean, it felt slow. But I do like it the best of all the three. I think it was just quite thinky, like it had quite a lot in. Like, there's a lot of development of Holland in this book. There's a lot of development of Lila. And they skip over things which I thought they'd probably end up talking about a lot, but which were kind of obvious. And they just say, yeah, well, that was kind of obvious, wasn't it? So let's move on. And it's quite thick, but there's nothing extraneous in there. I think that's what I'm getting at. And if you like the first book, you'll love this one, which is number 3. And I'm really, really glad I read it. And there was a Dark Shade of Magic readathon this month as well. And I finished this book the day after the live show for that, so that was not great timing, but it's good to be in with the kill kids sometimes. I just can't manage it all the time. So yeah, that's that. Someday Maybe by Lauren Graham. I liked it well enough. I didn't like it as much as her autobiography, which I found incredibly funny. I very rarely laugh aloud at books. This is a fictionalised version. I mean, she's a very Mary Sue main character. She's very similar life story wise to Graham, and I guess, yeah, I enjoyed it. It's a contemporary about a struggling actor, and it's about friendship and love and passion. It's basically about her and her 2 housemates, and she's got a boyfriend, and it's okay. I liked it, but I wasn't blown over by it. I'll still read her other books. I think this was her first book, and that's the problem with reading later books first, when they authors already honed their skill. I'm looking forward to her later books. Daughter of the Mountains by Louise Rankin. This is set in Tibet, and I found this particular, well, it starts in Tibet, and this little girl, her dog gets stolen and she has to go to Calcutta to get the dog back. I really found it interesting that this book starts from the premise that Buddhism is real and that everything in this book happens by the will of Buddha. And I've never read a book like that before. Like, I've read books that assume that Norse gods are real, or the Greek gods, or Roman gods, or books that start from a viewpoint that obviously Christianity is right. Or there's the Dragon series by Marie, I'll look it up and put it down, which is about a world in which Christianity doesn't happen and Judaism takes over the world. I've never read one which starts from a basis of Buddhism before, and so that was really interesting. And this little girl is blessed by the Lord Buddha and her dog to have adventure and fortune. She is very devout. She prays a lot on her journey, and she has lots of adventures. But also, she's quite happy when they say, "Oh, where are you going? Shouldn't we take you back to your parents?" So I'm on a journey for the Lord, and they say, "Okay, fine. Here, have some tea," and on you go. Which it's actually really believable in context, and it's a really sweet story about the love of this girl for the dog and how everybody wants her to succeed and everyone's rooting for her. Not quite everyone, but most of them. And she gets to the dog and she's reunited with the dog, and it's just absolutely lovely. Really, really glad to have read this book. And then the last thing I read was the third volume of Squirrel Girl, which Squirrel Girl is my favourite superhero. She's not too serious, but she's just serious enough. Like, she doesn't hurt people, she just fixes things. And in volume 3 she goes back in time, she fixes some things, she comes forward in time, she meets Howard the Duck. Howard the Duck is just hilarious, I'm sorry. And yeah, it's all good. And I did not finish Pride, which I mentioned in my last video. I might be reading, but I did start it, so that will definitely be in this video. And I am enjoying it so far. Have you read any of those? Did you enjoy any of those? What do you think? Let me know, and I will see you next week. Bye!